Chief of Police here at Michigan State University. Tragic series of events that have occurred here this evening. But we've had a tremendous amount of support from our community, to include our law enforcement partners who are here with me at the moment as well. Standing at the far right, we have Ingham County Prosecutor John Duane. Next to him, we have Sheriff Scott Wigglesworth, Special Agent in Charge of the FBI, Jim Taraska, and you've already met Deputy Chief Chris Rosman. Wanted to thank you for coming to share us as we update our community in regards to tonight's events. We will get directly to the most recent update with that, and then we'll have comment and questions.
Thank you, Chief. Again, Chris Rosman, Deputy Chief with Michigan State University Police and Public Safety. So we start tonight by sharing an important update. And that update is the suspect in this incident was located outside of the MSU campus. And it does appear that that suspect has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It is confirmed that he is deceased. This truly has been a nightmare that we are living tonight, but we have remained laser focused on the safety of our campus, our students, and the surrounding community. We are relieved to no longer have an active threat on campus, while we realize that there is so much healing that will need to take place after this. Again, to reiterate the update, there is no longer a threat to campus. We believe there to only be one shooter in this incident, and there is no longer a need to shelter in place on campus. There is no longer a threat on campus. We are sad to report that there have been 3 confirmed fatalities. This is in addition to the 5 victims who were injured and transported to the hospital. Some of those 5 victims still have life-threatening injuries. Out of respect for the families, and while we continue our active investigation, we cannot confirm any personal information about any of the victims at this time. Again, we want to reiterate to everybody that we know there is a lot of information that's being shared on social media and being said on the scanner. Please continue to get your information from us. We are committed to sharing timely and transparent information. Our hearts are with those who have been affected by this senseless act of violence. Giving an update like this is never easy. As a father, I can only imagine how parents are feeling right now. This will be the beginning of a long healing process for everyone who has been affected. That is the initial information that we're able to share at this point. I'll conclude by saying again that this is still a fluid situation. There are several different crime scenes that we are processing with our state and federal partners, and there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Special Agent in Charge James Taraska from the FBI.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening. I'm Jim Taraska, Special Agent in Charge of the FBI in Michigan. Our hearts go out to the victims, their families, and the entire community. I'd like to thank Chief Lynch for your leadership tonight and your partnership. This evening, FBI agents and our response teams joined our law enforcement partners to assist in investigating this horrific incident. We will continue to investigate until we are sure no further threat is posed to the public, which at this point, we're pretty clear it's not. Additionally, we will provide victim services to to all students impacted by this incident. We're asking the public, in addition to the other numbers provided to call in for information, we have the 1-800-CALL-FBI number. Please feel free to use that to call in any tips. This is an ongoing investigation. We'll continue investigating throughout the night and likely days. So with that, Chief, thank you.
In addition to the FBI tip line, we have countless investigators from not only the MSU, Police and Public Safety, but our local, county, state, and federal partners assisting us with this investigation, and there still is a lot to do. I'm going to provide another 800 number and email address for anybody that may have any information that will help our investigators as we put the pieces together for this incident. That phone number, and we'll also share it on our social media, is 844-99-MSUPD. Again, 844-99-MSUPD. And our tip line is tips, T-I-P-S, at police.msu.edu. Our investigators will continue to work tonight and around the clock to process the crime scenes and start to put the pieces together to try to understand what happened here tonight. At this time, we will open it up for a couple questions. I just want to say, please understand that we are sharing information as quick as we can. There's a lot that we don't know at this point. This is still dynamic, it's still fluid, and we will do our best to answer your questions. I'll start right here in the front.
Is the suspect a faculty member, a student? What can you tell us about him?
So we are unsure of any affiliation that the suspect had to the university. Our investigators and officers are still working to determine his identity. Once his identity is determined, we will then look to what connection he may have had to our community here, but at this time, that's still part of our investigation.
Just to follow up along the same lines, are the victims in this instance students?
So we continue to work to identify the victims in this case. Out of respect for their families, as we work through the process, we are not going to identify or confirm if any of the victims at this point are MSU students. That is something that we are quickly working to determine, and that will be a priority for us. In the back.
Can you describe if they're men or women for the victims?
I actually don't have that information. All we can confirm at this point is 3 fatalities at the scene on campus and 5 victims that were transported. That is all the information that we have. However, we will work to determine the specific identity of those victims and their affiliation to campus, if any. Over here.
Were the shootings limited to the Union and Berkeley? And then also, there were reports that the suspect was found with a backpack with magazines and another gun. Are you able to say if that's the case?
So the first question was the location of the shootings. We can confirm that the first shooting occurred at Berkey Hall, and the second subsequent shooting occurred at the MSU Union, which is adjacent to Berkey Hall. Victims were located at both of those locations. There were no other scenes, or a shooting did not take place at any other location. There were erroneous reports that there were additional shooting scenes, and that is not true. The question about what the suspect had in his possession when he was contacted, I cannot confirm that right now. We did release some pictures of the suspect. I cannot confirm if he was possessing a bag at that time. Go over here.
Do we know what type of gun was used?
We do not at this point. We do not have that information. That will be part of this investigation in terms of what type of weapon was used. We do not have that information at this time. Our investigators are working. That's part of the investigation that we're putting the pieces together right now. Go over here.
Do you have any information about what the motive was for this?
We have absolutely no information right now on what the motive is, and I can't even begin to imagine what that motive would be. That will obviously be part of our investigation. I know that that is going to be a question that lingers on everybody's mind. We will do our best to determine that, but at this time, we have no idea. Right here.
How many law enforcement officers, agents assisted you in this entire incident?
The initial response to the initial shooting was overwhelming. Every one of our law enforcement partners in Ingham County responded to the scene, and additional counties in this area showed up along with our federal partners. I'm comfortable saying in the hundreds. We had hundreds of law enforcement officers from university, local, county, state, and federal from the mid-Michigan area that descended on campus today in a coordinated effort to resolve this incident and secure our campus. In the back, News 6.
Do you know where the MSU president is, and do you know why we haven't heard from her?
I don't have that information right now. My understanding is that she is returning to campus and has been briefed on this incident, and I can only imagine what she's feeling at this point. Our focus up to this point has really been on the safety of our campus and the public safety operations at hand. And we have briefed not only our president, but our executive leadership team every step of the way. In addition to that, we activated our Emergency Operations Center and put our plans in place that we have planned for an incident similar to this. We initiated those plans, and part of the reason that it was as smooth on our end as it was in this tragic situation was because of the pre-planning, the emergency plans, and the training that we do countywide for responding to active violence incident. In the back, great.
Can you confirm how many fatalities and injuries there were at each shooting location, and how many people were at those locations when the shooting started?
Sure. The question was how many victims were at each shooting scene. I unfortunately do not have that information. Out of an abundance of transparency, I can share that 2 of the fatalities were at Berkey Hall and 1 was at the MSU Union. The other 5 victims, I don't have the specific locations where they were. We also don't have specific information on how many students or people were in those buildings when the shooting occurred. I do know that there were students in those buildings. I don't have a specific number. I want to commend the students and our community on how they reacted when we sent out our emergency messaging, instructing people to shelter in place, to run, hide, fight. Our community listened, and that's why a lot of folks in those buildings were able to escape, is because of following our instructions. I'm going to go over here in the back.
You talked a lot about the collaboration, the national response. What led you to this guy? How did you find him?
So I actually don't have that information right now. The update that we provided about the contact that we had with the suspect off campus was very fluid and dynamic and occurred right before coming in here today. So unfortunately, I don't have that information on what led us to his location. He was contacted by law enforcement, and he was contacted by law enforcement off campus. I cannot confirm that location right now. That scene is also being treated as a crime scene and is being investigated as we speak. We may have additional information to share relating to that in the future. Tell you what, over here, go ahead.
The 5 victims, are all of them still in critical condition? Are some in stable condition? What's the range of their condition right now?
So we do not have a current update on the 5 victims that are at the hospital. I am aware that they experienced life-threatening injuries. We hope to have an update from the hospital, and I think at future briefings, we will have a representative from the hospital here that may be able to share additional information as well. Sir.
Yeah, thank you. The shooting victims in Berkey, were they all in one location, such as a particular classroom?
So I don't have that information right now. That will be part of our investigation in terms of where the victims were located within the building. We don't have that information available to us right now. Right here.
Are there plans to close campus beyond the 48 hours?
So at this point, we are declaring that campus will be closed for 48 hours. That is the current status right now. That is subject to change as we evaluate our response to this incident, keeping the victims and the students of our community who have been impacted by this tragedy at the forefront. If we need to extend that we will, and the appropriate conversations are occurring to make those determinations right now. Sir?
Can you confirm that the suspect in the photos is the same person that was found dead?
I can confirm that the photograph that we pushed out immediately as part of our transparent information sharing is the same suspect that was found deceased, yes. Sir?
Just so I'm clear, can parents come to the campus now, can pick up their students, and can students leave the campus?
Yes, so we have lifted the shelter in place. That communication was sent out during this conference. Students are free to leave and go about their business. If they would like to be picked up, they may do that. We encourage any student that experienced any part of this incident that may be a witness to contact us. We have already been in touch with several of them, but if there are any students that witnessed any of the tragedy that occurred tonight, we would refer them to our tip line and email. We would like to have an investigator speak with them to understand what their experience was during this tragic incident. In the back.
To your knowledge, was there anybody that confronted the shooter either at Berkeley or the student union building?
We do not have any information on whether anybody confronted the shooter at either one of those buildings, one way or the other. Part of the investigation, we will look at the sequence of events and what occurred at each building, and that's why we encourage any students or witnesses to come forward to help us piece the sequence of events together. Go ahead.
Were any campus threats reported in the last few days or on social media? And then how did police find the suspect? Did he shoot himself prior to police interaction?
So we have not received any threats to campus in the last several days or before this incident. We have not received any threats to our knowledge. Obviously, our state and federal partners are constantly monitoring different sources to provide information to us, and to my knowledge right now, we were not aware of a threat before this. What was the second part of your question?
How did you all stop the suspect? Did he shoot himself before he made contact with you guys?
So I don't have the particular details on the encounter that happened when law enforcement confronted the suspect off campus. That will be part of our investigation as well, but I don't have the specific details of how that incident transpired. Sir.
What was the first time that the call came in?
The first report that we received was at 8:18 p.m. 8:18 p.m. We responded in force. We had officers on scene, not only from MSU Police and Public Safety, but East Lansing Police Department, the Michigan State Police, the Ingham County Sheriff's Office, Meridian Township Police Department, initially responded to that scene within minutes. We had officers in the building following their active shooter protocol and going towards the threat. While officers were in Berkey Hall, the suspect moved over to the Union, and when the incident took place there, officers quickly redeployed to the Union, and that's when the suspect left out the north door of the Union, which was the point that he was last seen.
We'll be taking one more question, and then we'll provide an additional update at 1:30 a.m.
So we'll take one more question, and we are going to do another update at 1:30, which is less than an hour from now. Go ahead.
I know the scene with the shooter is still ongoing. You just found out about it, but do you know, was he in an off-campus apartment, in a car? What was the location in which you found the suspect?
So we're not going to share any information right now about that specific location where that occurred. I can assure you that it was off campus. It wasn't directly near campus at all. It was an off-campus location. Because that scene is still active as well, we're not going to disclose that particular location right now. So again, we really do appreciate everyone. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it back over to the Vice President, Chief.
I just wanted to end it with this particular comment. We can't describe and appreciate the response that we have from our partners in our community. The number of police officers, emergency medical service, fire departments that showed up literally within minutes to support this effort, it's completely overwhelming with that. If you were on campus at the time, you saw it with that. They're still there, still clearing buildings. It's a very methodical process. We had the numbers to do it, and it's only because of the relationships that we have here locally and the ability to train and partner constantly, and the communication is always there. It's a situation that when one department receives the call, everybody does with that. We're extremely grateful for our relationships. It would not have been as thorough and as expedient and as efficient that it has been to this point without those partnerships. I just wanted to take a moment to thank our partners with that, as well as our community for being responsive to the messaging that was sent to them this evening. Thank you, and we'll see you at 1:30.
We're gonna do a hit